Welcome to I already missed a day. Welcome to Wednesday and our special Startup Recruiter Ask Me Anything. I'm going to wait a couple minutes and let folks kind of trickle in. But while we're waiting, everyone just tell me in the chat, where are you tuning in from? I love doing a quick roll call to see where everybody is coming from. Hi. Welcome. As we wait, let me know where you're tuning in from. So I'm in New Jersey, as most of y'all know, not too far from Philadelphia. How many folks are from Philly? Hey, y'all. Let's see where we are. You can't see the numbers on here, but I always got to check my LinkedIn to see what folks are on right now. All right, we're going to get started in about 60 seconds. Thank you all for tuning in on Wednesday. Definitely appreciate y'all. And for those who are on time, I know folks start to trickle in a little bit later. So I'm going to get started. Okay, hi everyone. It's your girl Shannon Morales, aka the Tech Career Plug and CEO and founder of Trabaja. I'm really excited to be presenting this amazing Startup Recruiter Ask Me Anything. So we partnered on this amazing event with Initialized Capital. You've seen them last month. We had Tiffany Fu come in and just share a little bit about Startup 101, exactly what it takes to be an ideal candidate at a fast-growing startup. So we decided to collaborate with a couple of different startups that are going to come in, talk to you a little bit about how they recruit, what they look for in their candidates, and what exactly open roles they have right now and what their company does. So I'm going to introduce 3 startup recruiters and tell you a little bit about their companies briefly. And as they've come up, they can share a little bit more about themselves. We have Albedo. Albedo is the first company to offer aerial quality imagery from Becca Zakowski is originally from New England, where she made her way out to Colorado to focus a little bit on everything in talent realm since. We have Manifold XYZ, a premium NFT platform. It is the go-to destination for NFT artists and collectors. The recruiter at Manifold XYZ is Nicole Osborne, who is a global people and culture leader with 13 years of experience in people and talent. Then we have Formic, founded in 2020. Formic is accelerating the adoption of automation, small to mid-size U.S. manufacturers and boosting productivity by removing the risk, complexity, upfront capital, and expertise that typically exist as barriers to onboarding this technology. And Megan Bosch is the recruiter. With over a decade of experience in recruiting and people ops, Megan leads recruiting strategy and operations at Formic. So I'm going to welcome these lovely ladies to the stage, where I will allow them to do a quick round of intros, because I know my intros do not do them justice. So I am going to start with Becca. Becca, feel free to welcome.
Yeah. Hey, guys. It's nice to see everybody. Becca, I'm the head of talent and culture over at Albedo, like Shannon mentioned. I think the only thing that you left out of my bio is that I really like wine.
Don't we?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. And I have Nicole.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Shannon. Great to be here. So yeah, it's pretty much that. I've been in the people and talent space for over 13 years in tech specifically, and now working at a Web3 company, which I'm very excited to chat with you all about.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole and Megan.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I lead recruiting strategy and operations at Formix. So I've been in, recruiting in some form my whole career. This is my first time in robotics at Formix. So it's been exciting so far. So glad to be here.
Okay. I'm just doing a quick look to check my comments to see if anyone can see us streaming. Spam, the person posted a bunch. Anyone else not seeing the stream? Let me just quickly see. Is everyone able to see the stream? Let me just make sure everyone can see us. That is strange. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can do some damage control from my cell phone. We all love technology, but it does not always work in our favor. We are supposed to be streaming to YouTube as well as LinkedIn Live. It's never happened that they can't see the actual live though, so I'm not sure what that's about. Let me get my team on it and I will make sure that we get this live up and running on the back end for you all. So do apologize for any inconvenience that this may offer, but at least we're recording, so we'll be able to share the recording with y'all later. Okay. So I want to just quickly go through each of you and ask a little bit more about your company size, what does your company do, and what makes it so exciting to work at your organization. So again, I'm going to start with Becca.
Yeah, so my company is a space company. We put satellites up into space. We are a Series A. We are in the process of building our first satellite that will take 10-centimeter imagery from space, which has never been done before. I think it's super exciting because it's a bunch of people that are like the crazy mad scientists that are working on those problems that no one has ever really solved before. And so it's a bunch of really, really passionate, but also really intelligent people that want to have fun while they're also doing something really hard. So that's what I love about the company, at least.
Nicole, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to hold
no problem.
And make.
Sure. Yeah, so I work at Manifold, and we're an NFT company, and we build tools for creators and artists. Using our tools, creators can design innovative NFT experiences and build up audiences and communities. And they do that through owning their smart contract. So that's a really cool concept because they have complete ownership over their work, which is quite a transformation from the Web 2 model. And in terms of the team, we're about 2 years old, so very early stage. We just raised our Series A. We're about 23 people, including our founders, so a very lean team, very flat. Everyone works hand in hand, and very engineering-led culture as well. Yeah, and it's a great environment because we work completely remotely, so it allows for great integration with work life, and we have very flexible hours and all different great aspects that I think are really outputs of the ethos of the Web3 space. We also have that in our internal culture with the team.
Yeah, and I'll go. I'm at Formic. We're a robotics company, or specifically robotics as a service. So if you think of software as a service, that's kind of how we're delivering robotic automation to our customers who are small to mid-sized manufacturers. So we actually help them scope out like where in their manufacturing line they could benefit from robotic automation. We'll actually deploy the robot for them with our software. We'll monitor, we'll maintain that robot, and just really take out all of that risk that they have had in the past into investing in robotic automation. So So it's been really exciting. I think it's a very cool time to join Formic. Just to see the impact that we're making with our customers. Many of them are automating for the very first time. It was just maybe something they didn't think was possible for them before. And so seeing that impact we have and just like the huge runway that we have ahead, and opportunity to really impact the, manufacturing in the industry in the US as a whole. But why I think it's an exciting time to join is, at Formic, we're doing like very new things in an old space, like an old kind of traditional industry like manufacturing. So being able to be really innovative has been really cool. And I think, being a part of just kind of this building phase as a company, I think it sounds like that's the case for all of us in this kind of Series A phase is, doing a lot of the work of like figuring things out, kind of building this foundation to grow on, wherever you are in the company has been really cool.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. As everyone kind of migrates to YouTube so we can get just a clear stream live, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that the Trabaja tribe submitted beforehand. One of them is about international candidates. And this question comes in from Yaswanith. How do you see the international remote roles panning out? Can teams join from London today at your organization? So I know, Nicole, we spoke a little bit and you said your company does, hire internationally. What countries does your, company hire from? And then also just to share a little bit about how you think about working remotely with international candidates.
Yeah, thanks. So like I mentioned earlier, I think that as a remote team and being fully distributed, that really lends itself well to async work. And so for that reason, we're able to have an international team. So we're predominantly in North America and across North America in different time zones, but we do have a few folks. We have someone in Japan, we have someone in Europe, and we're definitely open to great people in different countries joining. We're not actually limited to specific countries. So what's most important is that the person is flexible, and we do have this asynchronous element so that there is that flex time. But as long as you're able to join key meetings on the team and kind of flex your time zone as well, that really works with the team. So London, absolutely, that works well. And the key roles that we're hiring that we're open to international are software engineers, and also we're hiring for our founding design hire. So this would be like a product designer.
Awesome, Nicole. I'm going to go to the next question. Edwin Zhang from Trabaja asked, are you using or considering using ChatGPT in evaluating resumes? So I know this was an interesting question when I kind of went through and asked you all. So wanted to kind of get your understanding about just how do you actually use ChatGPT in your current role, if you do at all? And then also, what are your thoughts about candidates using ChatGPT? So I will go with Becca first, and then Nicole. And then
we currently use ChatGPT to help out when we're trying to figure out job descriptions, trying to get rough idea around what we should say. If the hiring manager wants the recruiter to come to them with like a rough example of it, we will pull from that to give them at least a starting point. Sometimes if we have trickier skills that we want to try and figure out a good interview question for, we will use that as kind of a prompt to spark some ideas there. But definitely, absolutely not using it from like a resume review standpoint. I think that is overselling my technical abilities to be able to even integrate those things in any way with our applicant tracking system. But I think, at least I'm sure that you two would agree, but at a startup, each hire is so specific and so important to the business that there's just no chance that I would let AI try and make any of those decisions. And so you're getting my eyes on it, our recruiter's eyes on it, and the hiring manager's eyes on it at a minimum before anyone's making a choice on that.
Yeah, I have to echo.
Thank you, Becca.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Becca, I'd have to agree with what you said. We're not using it that way at all. It's very much a human-to-human personal relationship that we're building from the first interaction point. What we do with ChatGPT is we encourage candidates to use it through our interview process. And I'd be happy to share a little bit about that process because I think it really highlights our culture and how we work with people once they join the team. Because we do recognize it as a reality to augment our work. But where it comes to personal things and relationships and human connection, we keep it that way. We don't try to replace that.
Yeah, I think that's a good theme of how, we may be using ChatGPT similarly to what you said, Becca, and a starting point for job descriptions or interview questions. But I think it's a good tool to use, as a starting point to add to like what we offer as humans and the job that we do in scanning resumes and interacting with candidates. And I think it's a good tool for candidates too, again, as a starting point, if you're trying to think of, your own interview questions that you want to practice or, ways of starting off a cover letter, but then taking that starting point and, using your own skills and perspective and making sure that like you're putting your best personal foot forward rather than whatever the AI kind of bot is giving you.
Yeah. And then Megan, is there any time where you feel like ChatGPT is like frowned upon when candidates use it? Like, is there any time during the process that you're like, oh, you shouldn't be using it at this point? Or is it just kind of like accepted throughout all stages?
Yeah, it's a good question. I wouldn't say we've seen it used a lot by candidates like in a very in a very like obvious way, I guess. I think we really do try to, through every step in the interview process, and we have like a structured interview process where candidates are meeting with, different people throughout. We may, for certain roles, have specific like assignments or presentations or something that they're doing to show their skills. So I think when I think about, using ChatGPT or any other kind of AI solution, I think it's best used, I think what I said again as like a starting point or a launch pad to, answer your own interview questions and, share more about yourself.
Thank you so much. And then Nicole, have you ever seen ChatGPT used in a way that you're like, okay, maybe I'm not so excited about you using it that way, or
Yeah.
just let me get some of your feedback.
Yeah. So, I mean, an interesting way that we interview is that our final stage is we do a collaboration project. So we actually add you to our Discord internally. We give you a scoped project. We pay you for that. So we pay you for your time. And we recognize that ChatGPT is something that people may use. So we invite people to use it, but we do design the project in such a way that creativity is a huge component. So we're really looking for the interaction between the two. And then on top of that, I would say if you are using those tools, it's important to be transparent. And so acknowledge where that's the case and even explain how you used it, how you prompted it, how you amplified it or improved upon it. And I think that makes for a much more genuine interaction. Whereas if a candidate is trying to hide that fact or, replace what they should be giving as a personal answer with something that's not their own, like that's when it can become a little more problematic.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nicole. Becca, would you like to add anything?
Our interview process has shifted to be quite a bit in person. And so that would be an alarming amount of effort to pull that off, I think, to use ChatGPT in a lab environment. And so far, no issues with using that for interviews at this point, but we'll see. I may have something to report back next time.
Okay. Thank you so much. We're going to go to the next question. And this question is also from a Trabaja member. Her name is Vina. And Vina asks, when a company asks you, what is your biggest accomplishment? How would you answer that in relationship to the role that you're applying for? And I guess what she means is just like, what are recruiters looking for when they ask that question? Becca, I will start with you since you ended that.
Yeah, sure. I think using as many context clues as you possibly can from what the recruiter has told you about the role, if you've already spoken to, a hiring manager or gotten further in the process, using any of the clues that you can about what they're mentioning, and also being sure to ask questions around what the role is really trying to accomplish. What do you think the biggest needs are on this team? What's this role trying to solve for? Albedo runs a very structured interview process where we tell candidates exactly what they're going to be covering in every single interview throughout each stage. And so doing some preparation to try and figure that stuff out. But if you are super early on in the process, read the job description, read their website, see if you can find YouTube videos, see if like the hiring managers are posting things on LinkedIn about what this role would be helping to solve. And then when you're answering those questions, try and pull those pieces into it and relate that back to something that you've done, but use data and information to kind of help to inform that answer. If you're telling me that your biggest, like if you're interviewing for a UX design role and you know you're going to be working on a really collaborative team, I don't really want the answer about like when you put out a client fire at your last job. Like I want the answer about a complex UX problem that was a big accomplishment. And so just try to use the context clues for what role you're interviewing for, who that's interacting with, and where that business is at to try and help to inform that answer.
Yes, thank you so much. That's really good tips for the community. So I'm just going to write some of those down so we can share them later. Nicole, how about you? Do you have anything to add to
Yeah,
that?
again, I agree with everything that Becca said. So I would say that think about the impact that you'd like to have in that role and what they've shared along the way that is the core reason that they're hiring for this person, and try to pull something from your experience that either relates in terms of impact, crossover skills. And I also think that in sharing that story, it's really nice to hear the candid elements of where you had challenges, how you overcame those challenges, how you may have had other skills, even soft skills, to help you overcome those things to get that result. It's okay if there were bumps along the way and if you had to overcome things, if you didn't know everything from the beginning. That's the nature of how we work. And I think it really resonates well when you're able to share very candidly and transparently about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. Megan.
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing with everything that has been said so far. And I think adding to that is really just being able to verbalize and kind of walk people through, that process of, how that opportunity came to be. Was it a need that you noticed? Was it a project put on your plate that you jumped on? And then as you're kind of walking people through that process, when you get to the end and the impact and the result, being able to verbalize, the impact and, why that's the proudest accomplishment to you. I think also what you learned from that, if that was a great hallmark in your career, an accomplishment that you're excited about, how did that inform, what you're taking to work going forward and what you can contribute and how you can add value in this position or at this company.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. So we have our first question in the chat. Let me just read through it. For interest in networking, breaking into a startup. Okay, so we have our first question from the audience. I'm going to put it up on stage. Let me see how this works with all of our technical difficulties. And Ezra, can you? Okay, there we go. For in networking, breaking into a startup career, how do you recommend to reach out to employees or hiring managers? How should we stand out to companies? So this looks like a little bit of a two-part question. The first part of the question is, how do you recommend that interested candidates reach out to employees or hiring managers of a role that they might have applied for? So we'll start with that question. I'm going to start with Nicole because I haven't started with you before. So let's go with Nicole, then Becca, then Megan.
Sure. I think for networking, it's there are general meetups in the tech space, and those can always be useful. And what's great is now it's more remote than ever, so they're much more accessible. And then I'd also say, identify what your interests are, whether they be interests that are in an industry or a particular problem or something that you've been building up in your career all along. Try to tailor it to those areas, and then you're much more likely to find opportunities, companies, missions that you really align with, and you can speak to those things when you're meeting with people. So even if you've never been in tech before or you've never had that particular role before, you're able to have that common ground because you're passionate about what the company is doing or what the space is doing. So I think that's a good way to identify, because there are so many places to go and to meet people. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, I think what I would say is if you have identified companies that you're interested in trying to target to reach out to the hiring managers or employees, start to pay attention to them on LinkedIn. See if they're posting blog posts, if they're posting articles, if they're posting achievements, if they're posting job descriptions. Engage with those, comment on them, like them, get yourself really involved, because that's how your name starts to show up to those hiring managers, and they can start to, they click around, they want to see who's commenting on their stuff. If they only have one comment and you're the first one to comment, they're probably clicking in to see what's going on your profile. And then reach out. If you see a job description that really interests you, make those connections on LinkedIn. This is maybe counter advice to what a lot of other people would say, but I always argue to avoid reaching out to the recruiter and reach out to the hiring managers or the executives. You're very, very not likely to turn down, if your CEO sends you a LinkedIn profile, you're probably going to end up going and making contact with that person, because when that CEO is eventually going to remember that they sent that person over and is going to say, hey, what happened when Abigail reached out to you? Did you ever get in touch with her? Which has happened to me, and I've hired someone from doing that. And so reach out, make those connections with the leadership teams, but explain what you're interested in about the company and why. Don't just send over, I'm interested in a role at Albedo. Why are you interested? What gets you excited about working in space? Why do you want to work for a startup? What interests you about the location? Whatever it is, get as personal as you can to kind of break that barrier, because that's what's going to engage them and help you to stand out with your personality and your interests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking about that aspect of the question around networking on LinkedIn, making that contact. And definitely agree. It's so much more valuable when a recruiter or whoever receives a LinkedIn reach out that's saying, hey, this is specifically why I'm interested in this role and this company. And I also think another piece of that, I'm big on communicating, if I'm a candidate, communicating my value and how I want to add value in this role in this company. It's not just, hey, can we chat? It's, hey, here's how I can add value in this role. I think for more exploratory networking, something that I've seen or I've found success in, and I know other people have too, is, if you're looking to kind of make connections or make a transition in your career, doing some searching on LinkedIn, maybe looking at particular companies you're interested in and finding people with, maybe some aspects of a common background as you, or who have maybe made a similar transition. If you're, a teacher looking to get into software, customer success, or something like that, kind of finding people who have made that jump. Or if you're, at a larger company, trying to make that transition into a startup, reaching out to people and just saying, hey, I see you've made this transition. This is something I'm interested in too. Would love to chat with you, hear what your experience has been, any advice you have. I think people who have kind of made, some of those transitions are, really happy to share their knowledge and bring people along for the journey.
Great. Thank you so much. So because we have quite a few questions to get through, I still have 2 more from the Trabaja community and I have 3 more in the chat. I am going to do just kind of rapid fire questions. So I'll ask a question and then either one of the recruiters can kind of raise their hand and say, I got that, I got this, so that we can get through them all. So I'm just going to ask the second part of this question, which is how should a candidate stand out? As we all know, the job market is fierce right now, very competitive. And so when applying to a company, your company specifically, how can a candidate stand out? Who wants to take that one?
I think a big piece of it is at least to me, one piece of it is what I already said, is I'm big on, showing the value that you would bring, being able to verbalize why you're interested in a particular position, a particular company. So if you're reaching out to a recruiter, or in your initial, conversation with a recruiter or initial call with someone, being able to verbalize why you're interested in that specific role. And also, again, the value that you would bring. You've put in thought to your past experience, to the skills that you're developed, and oh, I see you're looking for this, this responsibility or this experience in your job description. Here's how, I can do that and I can contribute to your team's goals. So I think just having that in mind is one good way to stand out.
Awesome. Thank you. Nicole, Becca, does anyone want to add? Or are we good to go to the next question?
I agree.
Okay, awesome. All right, so Wendy asks, I have 15 years of brick and mortar experience, manager and director. My crossover to startup space seems to be very junior roles. How do I make my experience appealing without seeming overqualified? I feel like this is very career, like one of the questions we get all the time from career changers within Trabaja is they're lots of experience in one industry and now they're transitioning. And they feel like the very first thing they need to do is go into junior level roles or start applying for junior level roles. And we always talk about those transferable skills. So how can that candidate be appealing without seeming like they have too many years of experience for that role?
One thing that I've seen that I think is really helpful is actually, instead of breaking your resume down based on roles, breaking it down based on the skills that you're bringing to that industry. And so one thing, when I wanted to kind of transition my career from sales into recruiting, it was around like my close rate from sales, which is really important in recruiting. And so there's different skills I think that you can bring from that experience that you have, Wendy, that will transfer over. That being said, there's also an aspect of, at a startup, a lot of these companies need someone that knows everything about that role when they're super early on, because they don't have the resources and the time to help to train, to ramp somebody up, to learn the industry. And so whatever you can do outside of the brick and mortar experience that you have to ramp up on that industry, to learn those skills, whether it's getting a certification online or trying to be as easy to slot into that role as humanly possible, that's what kind of gets you the leg up in the startup. Because I don't have a single hiring manager that didn't want that role 3 months ago. And so they just need someone that can do it. And so break down the skills that you have that are applicable to that role, put those on your resume. And I would veer less into each one of the individual positions that you've held and more into the skills that you can bring, and mention that, talk about that with the hiring manager, but also figure out what you're willing to do in order to kind of step back a little bit, in order to take maybe a slightly more junior role. Because even with enterprise recruiting experience, I couldn't have stepped into a head of talent role at a startup. Like, there was things I had to learn about working in a startup in the industry before I was able to get promoted into that position. And so figure out where you're willing to land as well.
Yes, I love that, Becca. Such great advice. Thank you so much. Does either Nicole or Megan want to add, or we second Becca?
Great.
And we're going to go ahead, Nicole. Sorry.
No, I'm saying +1 to Becca.
+1. Do I got a +2 in the house, Megan? All right. So next question is from Alexis Gonzalez. How do we know who the hiring manager is? So essentially, I think one of the answers from the last question was reaching out to the hiring manager, reaching out to the CEO. And I think that's a little bit easier at a startups because you can actually find them. But is there like some tips and tricks that you have for how do you find them on LinkedIn, or maybe some other way? How do you find hiring managers of certain roles that are posted?
I can take that one. So oftentimes it will be listed on the LinkedIn posting, but when it's not, you can do quite a lot of sleuthing on LinkedIn. So you can go to the company page and then the people, and then work off of what the role is and try to find at least the key people in the department. It may become obvious who's heading up the department or who's at least in a management position in the department. So you may not always get it 100% right, but you can at least start reaching out to potentials and at least management within that department. And oftentimes they will respond and point you to the right person. So just feel free to let them know that if they're not the right person, that you'd love to be directed to who the right person is.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next Trabaja question, Trabaja member question from Maggie. Maggie asks, what are some of the considerations a person should consider when going from mid-size or enterprise companies to a startup? The scrappy startups, what should they consider?
I have a lot of thoughts on this if no one else wants to take it.
I think this might be good for everyone to maybe add a quick tip, because I think it might be different for each startup.
I think for folks that are coming from larger companies, you have to really understand that startups don't necessarily have the budget that enterprise companies have, which is a huge, huge piece of it. I know that a lot of companies now, we're all posting salary ranges. We want things to be very transparent. I promise you, I don't have as much wiggle room as I did at a startup for your comp as I did everywhere else. It is just not going to happen. We are running very, very lean. And also at a big company, there's a person that does everything in their silo. There's steps, there's process, there's organization. When you jump into a startup, it is absolute pandemonium. It is chaos. You are learning things on the job that you never expected to possibly learn, and you probably never would learn if you stayed at that startup. And so there's nothing that will absolutely rocket your career more than working at a startup, but you have to be willing to do and dive into the things that make you really nervous, really uncomfortable. You're going to be tasked with things that you have no idea how to do, and you're probably going to get paid less. And so if you are not passionate about doing that, and you are not full force into trying to help this company's mission excel, stay in the enterprise world. Don't come do it. You're not going to like it.
That should be the disclaimer on startups job descriptions, but yes, big disclaimer. Nicole, what are some considerations that you think about?
Yeah, another huge plus one to what Becca shared there. We could probably go on about those points alone for an hour, but in addition, I'd say that yes, you probably will see a pay cut of some sort in terms of cash. However, equity can be a huge component of it. And as someone who has lived through an IPO and hopes to live through others, or other types of exits, I think the potential upside and the longer game can be really rewarding in this space. And then also, as the startup becomes more successful and scales, we do become more competitive, and we do scale up our comp plans along with that. And we also change who our competitors are in terms of the market and pay. And then another thought that comes to mind is pivoting. I mean, any business will pivot as needed, but I think in a startup that can happen very fast, very often on a moment's notice. So you can be working on something and very quickly have to let that go and move on to the next thing, which can be difficult when you've put your heart and soul into it. And like Becca was saying, you're working very hard and doing so many things. So I think just knowing that the company is looking for product market fit in many cases, they're looking for growth, they're looking for what it's going to take for the company to excel. And so your willingness to pivot what you're working on, change your projects, go into a completely different direction and be flexible is a really great skill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that resilience in an environment that's changing very quickly, and being able to adapt and flex and kind of rise to new opportunities and challenges as they come up is exactly what you're going to experience in any startup. And I think when you embrace that, it's really exciting. And I think we've probably all had experiences in our career where we've had something drop on our plate and we're like, I don't know what to do with this. And you learn so much, and you get to flex into different areas that you never would have run into at a larger company where you do have dedicated teams and things are more siloed. So I think that's definitely something to expect, as well as, coming from a larger company where you have, specific teams for specific purposes, whereas, coming into a startup, there may just be one person who's managing, something that several teams did before. So being able to be really resourceful, you should not expect to have the same internal resources as you would as a larger company, like defined processes and, where to go if you need help with things. So being able to, be really scrappy and I think it's really helpful to make good relationships internally at a small company too, so that once you learn a little bit of who does what, you know who to go to with questions. You can research things on your own. You can ask ChatGPT things on your own and kind of come up with a plan. And you do end up learning a lot. So all of those things, I think, are things to consider.
Yes, thank you. And then Rohan says, chaos is good for growth. If someone is interested in the industry, they will put in that extra effort. I hear that. So we have another question from Maggie, and she essentially wants to know, had it in my head, how open are startups to people who've worked in different roles? So I'm guessing this is also like a similar like career changer question. Like, how open are startups to someone who might have like a different background and trying to get into your space?
I think that depends quite often on the particular role and the team, and also the seniority level. Like for us, I know that if we were looking for a lead, we probably can't, like, especially in the space industry, I'm learning very quickly here that nothing else is like space. Even if you work on planes, on avionics, it's not going to be the same thing as having to deal with a satellite that is going to feel the heat of the sun much, much closer. So there are things that we just can't flex on, because that would probably end up resulting in really, really important portions of our mission failing. Which would then result in none of us having jobs. And so at that point, it's like we can't flex on those types of things. But when we're hiring a business operations associate, we wanted different backgrounds that were going to bring some diversity to the team, that think differently than our VP of finance, who had a very consulting firm background. So we're always kind of assessing and thinking about where a really good career change could help us from that standpoint. But there are places that it would hurt us that we just can't flex, unfortunately.
Nicole or Megan, do you want to add?
Yeah, I could add. I think Becca mentioned earlier that, there are some roles in really any role that opens up. You need someone in that seat. And often, for certain positions, especially maybe more senior positions, it is extremely helpful to have someone who's kind of been there, done that. But I think because of the nature of a startup where people are wearing a lot of hats, sometimes there are roles where, and sometimes you can tell from the job description or with conversations like through interviews, if you've worn one of those hats and maybe you've like gotten exposure to some of those other hats, like you can show how you can flex into some of those areas. So like I'm in recruiting, if I want to get more exposure to people operations, to benefits, to compensation, and I've gotten a little exposure to that before, but I can show that I'm like willing to learn, and there's a lot of value I can bring in like the recruiting hat. I think you can sell yourself, and how you can, how you maybe have flexed into some of those areas in the past, and how you can continue to grow and do that in a startup environment.
Okay, awesome. So I have a couple of questions, and these are about open roles, the hiring process, and some challenges as you continue to grow and scale your company. I think all three of these questions are important for each one of you to answer. So I'm going to go back to just kind of like robining it with each one of you. So the first question is going to be, what are your current open roles? And I will go with Nicole, then Becca, and then Megan.
Sure. So we have 2 key roles open right now, but I will say that we are hiring multiple for engineering. So we're hiring software engineers, mostly intermediate and senior levels, and we're probably looking to fill somewhere between 5 and 10 over the next 6 or so months. And then we're also looking to hire our founding product designer. So that's very exciting. And there's huge impact in that role. So those are the 2 key roles that we're looking for right now.
Thank you, Nicole.
For us, we are currently looking for quite a few engineering positions, but these are going to be more physical in a lab, in our clean room in the Denver area. So relocation would have to happen if you aren't already here. But things like GNC engineers, mechanical engineers, flight software engineers, aerospace technicians. So those are a couple of our priority roles, but those are very, very hands-on. I think that the flight software may be the only remote role that we have open right now.
Okay, so if Colorado is in your cards, you know where to go.
We pay for relocation.
Megan. Relocation paid, y'all.
Mhm.
All right, Megan, help.
Yeah, at Formic, we have several roles open right now. Some are a little bit more geared towards robotics, robotic applications engineers, robotic field service engineers. And then we do have we have a couple sales development representative positions open right now. And I think that's an area that's going to continue to grow in our business. And we also have a couple internal operational positions open. So we have an HR program manager position open. That one's based in LA in particular. And then we have a remote financial operations and insurance related position. So those are some of our open roles right now.
And then I know you mentioned something about Los Angeles with HR. Was that the HR program manager role? Is relocation?
Yes. So that one's based in LA in particular.
Is relocation offered at your company?
For the right candidate, potentially, yeah.
Okay, love that answer. Thank you so much. And then a question that one of the Trabaja members asked is like, what are some of the challenges? Like, what are some of your biggest challenges with a certain role? Like, do you have like a pain point with a particular area or hiring in a specific space? So I know, Becca, you mentioned like, in space, you need a very specific skill set. What are like some of those hard to fill roles that you have right now?
All of them. So pretty much all of the engineering positions, just because it's so location specific, are pretty challenging. A lot of people that are doing the things that we're really interested in, while there are some space companies that are based in Colorado, a lot of them aren't. And not everybody just wants to pack up and move out to the Colorado area. And unfortunately, we need someone that's physically willing to be in the lab and actually touching and poking on things that I would never be allowed near. And so that, I would say, is probably the biggest one, is the location aspect for us, as well as, of course, the very specific space skill sets.
Thank you, Becca. Nicole, how about you? What are some really challenging roles?
So not that the role is challenging, but we're very focused on building a diverse team. And I'm sure a lot of teams and companies are, and we've been doing that since inception, since we believe that if we can get ahead of this from the beginning, then we can keep that going. And it's so important because the creators and artists who use our product are a diverse group of people. So we want to make sure that we're building the right tools for them. So really trying to find people of all different backgrounds and experiences to come to the table is definitely a challenge. And I think it's something that we're working on to improve in this space in general, like in tech in general, and then in Web3 specifically. So that's why I love events like this. And I'm so happy to be a part of events like this to meet just more varying people from all different backgrounds.
And for me, yeah, at Formic, I
Megan,
think some of our more challenging roles. Oh yeah, some of our more challenging roles can tend to be on the robotics side, and I think it's just kind of the nature of what we're doing. Again, like doing new things in an older, like more traditional industry. So finding people with that background and those specific skill sets in robotics, but who are really buying into and aligning with our vision, are maybe motivated to jump ship from the company or a specific industry that they've known for like a very long time to coming in and taking a chance on a startup. So I think that's a particular challenge with our robotics roles. More broadly, I wouldn't say like not so much a challenge, but I think something that we really look for in all of our roles, and I'm sure Becca and Nicole's teams do as well, is just being in a startup. I've mentioned like resilience and just being able to be really adaptable and flexible through a lot of growth and pivoting. And I think also like communication is really important too in a very like remote or hybrid distributed team. I think it's huge, like how, your written communication or how you're interacting with others and being able to build those bonds when we're not sitting next to each other, I think is really important as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Megan. I'm just gonna ask if someone can answer Lauren's question really quickly. How can someone find out if a company pays for relocation? Is that something that's on the job description, or is that anywhere like published or present for the public?
I would take a look at the careers page. Usually it would be posted most likely either there or on the specific job description. We post it on the job descriptions, or reach out and just ask. If you get on the phone with someone, you can certainly ask if relocation is on the table, especially when you're having that intro call with the recruiter.
Okay, awesome. Sounds great. I am going to get into 2 quick questions before we are all up. We have 8 minutes left. I want each one of you to just kind of go through the steps in your hiring process. We love being transparent within Trabaja, and we love when our employer partners also share, just their steps in their interviewing process, right? How many are there? And just so that candidates are what they're getting into when they apply for those roles at your startup. So I'm going to go with Megan, then Becca. What is your hiring process look like?
Sure. Yeah. So we do have a structured interview process. It may vary a little bit depending on specific roles, but by and large, the steps that you're moving through are first having an initial call with a recruiter. So that's more of that introductory call, getting to know your experience, the role, making sure there's alignment there. From there, the next step would be a video interview with the hiring manager to dive a little bit deeper. From there, we move to a team interview, which is kind of a set of interviews with some other stakeholders. Could be members of your direct team, definitely some cross-functional team members, to allow us to get kind of different perspectives of you, but also for you to be able to get some different perspectives of who you could potentially be working with in the company. And we also usually during that round, one of the conversations will really focus on kind of culture, collaboration, your ability to really, thrive in, again, kind of a hybrid distributed, remote environment. So a little bit less on the hard skills and a little bit more on that team collaboration. Last step we do is a final interview. That's with our VP of People and our CEO. And then we do a reference check as well. So that's kind of our interview structure.
Thank you, Megan. Nicole, how about you?
So we also have a structured interview process. The first call is with myself. So it's just to get to know you, what you're looking for in your career, some of your past experiences. We're also very transparent about salary and our career levels and how all of that works. And then I would also share how the rest of the interview process will work. The second step, and I'll explain engineering, and they mostly follow a similar structure. The second is a take-home, and we actually design something that is a problem in our space, in the NFT space, and it's really an opportunity to get creative. And it's only about 2 hours of your time. So the idea is that you can showcase what you can do and how you think. And then after that, we would have you meet with an engineer on the team. And it's not a technical interview. It's really an opportunity to have an open chat about cool things you've done in the past, and most importantly, what you're excited about doing in the future, what kind of projects get you excited. And you can ask any questions that you have to the engineer about what it's like to work here, what they're working on, what some of the challenges are. So we're really trying along the way to be as candid and transparent as we can be to really see if there's a good match on both sides. And then we do finally the skills assessment. And our approach is to really try to, instead of having a proxy of what it's like to work together, we actually work together on something. So we scope something either out of our backlog or a problem that we will eventually be working on. And we have you scope the project out. I would add you to Discord internally with the team, and there'd be a couple of engineers there working with you on it. And it's really an opportunity to talk in chat so that you have that chance to see what the communication is like, but then also you can ask questions about the project and get the information and resources you need to succeed, and we pay for that. So it's really like entering into a small mini contract with us and doing real work with us, and we pay you for your time to respect your time. And then the final step would just be to meet with the head of Eng and one of the founders.
Okay, thank you so much. And then Becca.
Yeah, so very similar to both of your processes. Initial step is going to be probably about a 30-minute phone screen with one of our, either myself or our sourcer. That very casual conversation, run through your background, what interests you in the company, what are you looking for from a comp perspective, does it line up with the salary that we have posted on the job description? Because like I said, I don't have a lot of wiggle room. Making sure that all of those requirements are kind of set up and running through those next steps in the process. From there, we always do an interview with the hiring manager. Then we move to a technical competency interview, which will vary just depending on the role. It could be similar, like Nicole mentioned, like a collaborative coding exercise, or it could be whiteboarding with a couple members of our team. Next, we have an interview that's exclusively dedicated to our core values. Those are really big for us at Albedo. And so we have a blog post on them, and I send that over to everyone that's interviewing with us. And these are people that you likely are not working with on a daily basis. And so we want to make sure that you have some other people that aren't just the folks that you're going to be working with every single day anyways, so that you can meet and make sure that you line up with the culture as well. And then finally, we do a founders interview where you meet 2 of our 3 founders, and they run through one of our core values with you as well and learn a little bit more about what interests you in the company.
Okay, thank you so much. And then we have 2 minutes left. I have a final, leave the audience with something about your company and your organization. So essentially, I want maybe what's something that you absolutely love about working within your organization, and maybe any cool benefits that might, separate your company from another company. I am going to go with Nicole, then Megan, and then Becca for our final words.
So I think what's super cool is our mission. I think that our products really empower artists and creators, and the Web 2 space has historically let them down in a lot of ways. So the decentralization, the transparency, the empowerment that the tools in blockchain and the Web 3 bring are really amazing. And that's what we're looking to capitalize on at Manifold to empower creators. And then I'd also say the team, and that might sound pretty like a common answer, but we have amazing people on the team, and we're very thoughtful about who we add to the team. And that's really just to make sure that we have this great culture of people who collaborate well together. And then in terms of benefits, I think what's really great is how we're fully remote, fully distributed. We have this nice balance of asynchronous work, and we also meet synchronously, but it is a very light meeting culture, which means that you can really get things done and you have a lot of flexibility in your life. So whether that be travel and work while you're traveling, whether that be, things with your kids or things that are happening in your personal life, as long as you meet like the core commitments with the team and you're not a bottleneck to anything, we really let people work flexibly on hours that work well for them. And I think that's a really special feature that we have.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Megan, how about you?
Yeah. I think an exciting thing about working for Formic is definitely our mission and just the impact that we're making with our customers. Many of our customers are adopting robotic automation for the very first time and investing in their business that way. So seeing them, grow and continue on their journey with us, as well as just the huge runway we have ahead to make an impact in the industry is really cool to see. It's really exciting to be a part of this, building and propelling us forward. And I'll also say the people, I think, again, the nature of doing what we're doing, we have people with all different types of backgrounds, all different types of professional backgrounds, from Silicon Valley to manufacturing, and everywhere in between. And just kind of how people come together, make decisions, share ideas, I think is really inspiring. In terms of some cool benefits that we offer, or perks, I think in addition to, medical, dental, all of that fun stuff, just seeing how Formic, has some benefits and perks to take care of people, make sure we have the tools to do the work that we do. We have a home office stipend to make sure that, you're set up for success, take care of, phone and internet reimbursements. But while we all work in different places, I think we also really value that, in person, some of those intangibles that come from working together in person. So we do actually have all company offsites twice a year, so we can all get together, do some work stuff, do some social stuff. But I think that's really valuable as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Megan. And then Becca, I'll let you wrap up.
Yeah, I think Albedo is one of those companies that's really hard to not get behind with the mission. Our satellites will help out with a ton of use cases with things like climate change, investigative journalism. There's a ton of things like helping to prevent forest fires. It is really, really robust with what we can do. And I think it's hard to find someone that doesn't resonate with those use cases when we talk to them. So I think that's a big piece, but also the founders are really fun. They're not on here, so they didn't actually ask me to say this, but they are such incredible people that are so passionate and excited about what we're doing. And they want to make a great environment for the people that work with them. And so we share very similar perks. We have an incredible parental leave policy, including things like giving you a monthly stipend towards your childcare. We run asynchronous hours for the bulk of the day, so that way people are able to just be adults and take the time. Like, if you want a facial in the middle of the day, go get one, because we know that you're a grown up and you're going to go work later on anyways, because you've got stuff to get done. We also do team offsites twice a year, where everybody comes out to the Denver area so that we can all spend time together. And the team is so much fun that even though we've got a group of engineers, all of us didn't end up going home until 4 a.m. because we were having such a blast out dancing and having a great time together. And so it's a fun team of really, really smart people that have come from some of the coolest companies in the world. So I cannot speak highly enough about Albedo.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Becca, Nicole, and Megan. Really appreciated you coming and spending a Wednesday with us. Thank you, everyone who tuned in with us, got through all of our technical mishaps and things like that. Appreciate you. Feel free. Are they able to reach out to you on LinkedIn, or what's the best way that they that the audience can connect with you?
LinkedIn is great.
Okay, awesome.
LinkedIn.
So connect with them on LinkedIn if you have any other questions. But as always, if you're not part of the Trabaja tribe, feel free to join at trabaja.co, and we look forward to connecting with you and building your tribe. See you later.